Carl here. Thanks for joining us once again for another episode of the Real Agent Podcast. Today I am down in Springfield Lakes and I am joined by Steve and Tracey from McGrath in Springfield. How you going, guys?
Good.
Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
No.
Really excited to share your journey through real estate and let everyone know what you guys are up to.
No, thanks for coming out.
So firstly, you guys are the power couple of Springfield. What's the secret? I find that there's a lot of couple-based real estate agencies. It seems to be one of the few industries where people can work together and not necessarily kill each other. So what's the secret?
I don't think there is a secret.
That's a really good question.
I think there's no secret. You know, a lot of people say to us, "Oh, how do you manage it all that you do?" I think you just do it. You know, I think there's not really a choice, I suppose. If you want to run a successful business and you want to have a beautiful family and you want to have a work-life balance, there really isn't any secret. So I think we've probably got a super mum here. And amazing business woman who I can't believe what she does most of the time. So
thank you. I think you've really got to have hyper communication. That's very hard because during business hours you're dealing with the rest of the world, but then at home you're actually trying to communicate with each other.
Yes.
While the kids are also trying to communicate with you because they haven't seen you.
So you've really you do have to have hyper communication, but that's very hard to achieve. But in saying that, I think you've also got to have a separation of roles so that you're not both trying to do the same thing and you're not clashing over certain things. So what we do very well now is I have my sort of area that I work with and Steve has his. And we very much know that's my responsibility and that's his. The minute we start to sort of cross over and take over each other's job roles, we fight.
Right, okay.
So it'll be like, no, that's my decision.
Yes.
That's not your decision.
Yep.
So
does
we
that
sort
apply home and work? Like you have very defined roles. Obviously at work it makes sense, but do you sort of follow the same methodology at home?
do
pretty similar
roles at home, but definitely in the office. So we've definitely got roles in the office that we stick to. And then, there's many decisions we make jointly, especially around people, what we're involved with, what we're not, social media even, what holistically we're making decisions jointly, but on the spot we're making decisions.
I suppose for me,
separately.
by us running it that way, I don't get bogged down in all the detail, or we both don't get bogged down in the detail. Trace will come to me and go, okay, Renee and I have done this. What are your thoughts on this? And it's kind of like my opinion on that, rather than trying to go to woe, and we're both held up.
Yes.
Whereas for me, listing and selling is what I love doing. And obviously I've got a community side of things as well. So being president of Ipswich Cares and being involved in some of the other groups in the area, that's what I love doing. So, if I do a lot more of that stuff, the nitty gritty stuff in the business, well, then that takes me away from that, which is probably not what I excel at.
It's probably, so we each have our own strengths. So we really just play off each other's strengths, which is good.
Yes.
Because along the way we've worked out that actually separately, so if it was just me or just Steve, we actually wouldn't be as good as we are together. So together we're a lot more powerful because I've got certain strengths and then Steve's got others. So he's got more of a profile and a presence, exceptional selling skills, whereas my skill set is different from that.
Yeah.
So that's how we do it.
We probably stabilise each other sometimes as well. So, Trace might be gung-ho about something and it's like, well, hang on, have you thought about this or have you thought about that? And equally, Trace does the exact same for me. And sometimes I'll go, okay, yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. Or, sometimes I'll take a little bit of a step back and kind of go, okay, let's change it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we jumped ahead a little bit there, but let's talk about McGrath Springfield and what you guys have created. So for the audience who don't know who you guys are, can you give a bit of context as to the size of the business, your staff number, how long you guys have been around and so on?
Yeah, so we bought the business in 2008. It was a Ray White franchise. And then a year and a week ago, we made the decision to obviously rebrand to McGrath. It was obviously a brand that we kind of we admired John, and we love the brand. More of a boutique brand, and a brand that probably hasn't been launched in the Springfield area. They've obviously got a lot of the big brands, and basically we've got an office here that runs property management and sales. We've got 8 plus myself as a selling principal in sales. So we've got about 20 in the office, so about 10 or 11 in property management as well, and a few more spots to go to fill the office.
Okay, awesome. And so the rent roll, is that sort of quite well established now? What sort of size is the rent roll sitting at?
Yeah, all our rent roll is organic, so we haven't really bought any.
Yep.
So Claire, who's been with us from day one, she's amazing. So she heads up our property management department. So I think we're around 550 now.
That's great.
And we started in 2009, so we started about a year after we actually bought the business.
Okay.
There was an existing property management in here that moved out in 2009, and then we started from scratch.
Wow.
So Claire was our receptionist and sales admin, and she kind of took on another couple of hats, and it's pretty amazing to see where it's come to from here. She said the other day that she's signed over that time well over 1,000 managements.
Wow.
Because obviously they come in and out, and
of course,
people move back into houses and stuff. So the actual amount of Form 6s or back then the PMDs, she signed well over 1,000. So,
and that's phenomenal that you've had the same person, because property management, I think, is seen as a very transient role that people are constantly chopping and changing from. So to have that one person must provide your landlord with a heap of consistency, knowing that person is always there for them.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably hard, and Trace would probably say that sometimes, because Claire brings everyone on and has from day one, even though there's, property managers and the team look after them, everyone knows Claire.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time people are ringing Claire going, Claire, it's like, well, you've got a property manager, we've got a leasing department. So, but it's good for that, I suppose. The longevity provides stability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And so you talked there about obviously your transition from Ray White to the McGrath brand. Did you do a lot of research when you made that change, or had you sort of already made your mind up because of John and his presence that McGrath was the way you guys wanted to go?
Well, we'd been in discussions with them for some time. I suppose it wasn't a light decision for us.
Of course.
We're quite loyal people, so we actually did embrace the Ray White family. We love the Ray White family. So it wasn't an easy decision for us. But we had investigated for some time, and for us it was about an alignment of values. So we moved to McGrath to just change, our value system had changed. So that's hence the change. But it was several years in the making, really, for us.
Yeah, sure. It's really interesting, and I certainly look up to John McGrath and everything he's done in his business, but he really has sort of built a brand, I think, around himself, which is very much an attraction brand now, where I think a lot of franchise groups, the franchisees are getting disenfranchised because they're sort of not, I think, feeling that connection with the franchisor. Whereas I know with you guys, John was here at your grand opening. Like there's kind of a different level of, I think, involvement. From him.
I think as well, the big thing for us is that in some of the big brands and some of the agencies out there, you just feel like a number. And for us, McGrath is high performance. So it's about getting the right bums on seats, not the amount of bums on seats.
Yeah.
So, a lot of big brands you'll find is like a revolving door, a lot of offices. And we see that, locally and also state and nationally. But for us, it's about making sure we've got the right people. And we want our customers to feel like they're not just a number as well. So our focus has never been and will never be on money. Obviously, you've got to make a profit. But for us, it's about, working within our community, being happy where we live, and introducing other people into our, obviously, community and area. And really just solving their problem, which a lot of the time is they've either got to sell a house, buy a house, have their property rented out. So it's kind of us providing those solutions. But actually on an emotive level, I suppose, rather than just kind of seeing them as a number. We actually want to, kind of help them and make sure their experience is positive. Because for us, it's about longevity with all our agents and our business. So, if we, I've sold properties 10 years ago and they're coming back to us now, 10 years later, and that's what you want. You want your repeat clients. A lot of our business is repeat, referral and past clients, and obviously the work we do within the community.
Sure. And so when you went through that decision process, was there any point where you guys contemplated or looked at actually going from franchise model to completely independent? Was that something you guys investigated?
Yeah, that was the other option.
That was the other option, yeah. We definitely looked at becoming ourselves, but we didn't go down that path because I think there is value in a franchise. There's training, there's having a team behind you, so someone to call, someone to support you, all that sort of stuff. There's also an element of the brand actually, benchmarking you and setting down expectations, and I think that's important.
So some accountability
there's
outside
some accountability, there's, you're setting goals for the next year and you're working towards something. And I know you can do that by yourself, but it's great if you've got someone at the end of the phone and you've also got John saying, I think you can do this.
Yeah.
It does help you. It does help motivate you, reach your absolute potential.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you definitely put a lot of thought into which way you're going to go.
Yeah,
so.
I think also as well when you're looking at, if we were going to go to a completely independent brand of our own, the amount of money that goes into that, and for us, rather than the transition wouldn't have been as good because you're kind of going, okay, so what does our signboard look like? What does our letterhead look like? And even making the transition to McGrath, there's so many things that you go, I hadn't even thought of that. So there would have been a lot of money and a lot of time spent actually on this finer detail.
Sure. Yeah.
Rather than just kind of going, excellent, we're in a brand, they set the style, and we kind of just focus on what we do best. And really, for us, we changed brands, but we didn't really change businesses. As in, the business just continued. The brand changed, but our connections, our networking, and what we do didn't really change.
Sure.
Yeah, front of house changed. Back of house really didn't change at all. With the same people, with the same energy, with the same values.
Yeah.
Just now we've got different opportunities. So it's quite interesting. The change to McGrath gave us such a different way of dealing with people. And we've gone from one office with in one little suburb in Australia to an office with, a much larger territory and a different type of clientele. Immediately the properties we started selling increased in value. So we actually started attracting much more higher end properties.
Right.
We started listing properties, massive developments and just totally different houses to what we would have sold when we were with Ray White, which is quite interesting. So rather than just selling little $300,000, $400,000 house in Springfield, we're now selling $1.5 million properties, which I wouldn't have even thought was possible.
And you think that's linked to the brand, obviously.
Yeah, definitely linked to the brand. So the type of properties we're selling has changed, and then the area has changed, and then the clients have changed.
Yeah, and I suppose, for us, when we were with the previous brand, there's agencies everywhere with that brand.
Yes.
So you're really not selling anything, kind of groundbreaking. You've got 3 or 4 agencies all trying to compete with the same business. For us, because we've got quite a large BDA, and the way the ethics and integrity are within the McGrath network is that you're not fighting over stock. We come in and we walk into this business every day and we're not worried about, here there's one moving 2 kilometres, 2 kilometres up the road or whatever. We know that, everything's very transparent, and, it's a far better culture within the offices. And everyone really, we go to, sales meetings and principal meetings, and everyone really kind of, the way John works is very much, if there's any, kind of issues in the room, get them out, let's talk about them and let's work on it together.
They have an abundance mentality, so, more is, there's more for everybody as opposed to trying to take from each other, which works really well for us. But the best thing is that for that, is that it enables you to go to work and do what you're actually trying to do versus going to work worrying about what is going to happen.
Yes.
And so it's enabled us to just get on and do business, but like I said, sort of a different type of business.
More focused on your activities that you need to do to grow. And so, talking about growth, the McGrath brand obviously is a great thing for you guys to be putting out into the marketplace. What activities are you doing that are sort of really effective right now with the new branding, and how you guys are going moving forward?
I think for us, it's social media has played a big part since our change. I think obviously with technology and online being at the forefront of marketing these days, with some of the things you can do with boosting and sponsoring posts and those kind of things. We've got probably quite a good profile on social media anyway. So linking into that and then linking into some of the other, Facebook, kind of boosted posts and some of the different mediums you can use really kind of expands that. So we've got a huge strategy on our properties and obviously on our office social media, and it seems to be working really well.
Yeah, and I would say that your demographic here is probably slightly more millennials and sort of younger demographic that do embrace that social media aspect as well.
Yeah, which is interesting because obviously Greater Springfield has got such diverse property. So you've got, Prestige Golf Course, community, which is Brookwater. Then you've got the newer areas like Springfield Lakes, Augustine Heights. Greater Springfield's very family friendly.
Yeah.
But then you've got some of the older areas like Camira, where you've got people that have been living in their homes 30 or 40 years.
Yes.
So, in a place like Camira, direct mail and letterbox drops probably work better than they do in some of the newer areas.
Sure.
So it's really interesting. You've got to look at each area
individually.
You do, and you have to dominate each area. So you've got to do marketing, signboards. Well, you have to have signboard dominance. You've got to have your DLs, you've got to have your calls, you need to have, be touching your old clients and, having conversations with people, even as simply as, listing a house here and then going and talking to the neighbours.
Yeah.
A conversation will actually turn into, we now have 2 or 3 houses in one area listed.
Yes. Yeah.
So all of those things matter. But social media for us has been very powerful, very effective. It's been a good way to mass communicate.
Yeah.
We're stepping into videos more now, which I know a lot of people are, but we are finding good success from it. And we're constantly learning and upskilling ourselves on what we can do and what works and what doesn't. When we moved to McGrath, we employed a full-time social media person that works in the office.
Awesome.
So she does all of our visual, DL creations, billboard creations, and social media. So, but she's trained in that,
and she runs all the campaigns, signboards,
Yeah.
any kind of help with brochures, any of the campaigns, booking photography. The agents and the team have got complete access with Renee, and she helps them through a lot of those things. So it takes a little bit of the pressure of that running around talking to different companies, kind of going, when can I get photos? So she can handle that all for them.
But the landscape of real estate's changed a lot. So 10 years ago, you would never have considered having a full-time in-house social media person that has a degree in social media. Yeah. That
Could you get a degree in social media 10 years ago? I don't even know if that existed.
Probably not. That is working on that for you.
Yeah.
You would have had an admin person that would have been proofing your newspaper ads every week, sending through your open homes to the newspaper, and the agent would have been putting out their own call flute signs and taking their own pictures.
Yes.
Now you have a creative services team, people, professional photographers, professional floor plan designers, things being sent overseas for work.
Virtual staging.
So many, professional spiel writing, all these different things, and social media. So the role has changed enormously. The way we market property has changed. It's still changing.
Yes.
And we're getting better and better and better. I think we all have to continually work on that improvement in that space.
Yeah, I think that a lot of agents forget that their core skill is people. people to people and negotiation and conversations. And I think when an agent doesn't realise the opportunities that now exist in outsourcing all of those things, and outsourcing doesn't mean sending over to the Philippines. I mean, outsourcing can mean having someone in your office, but it just means if you are outsourcing that task, that's more time that you can actually spend face to face with a potential client, which is where your core strength is.
And I think as well, like recently at ARIC, they were talking about, I know Bob Wolf talked about it, and they were talking about with technology allows us to connect with more people, but actually with technology we're disconnecting with more people. So, you know, like he said an example around, you know, oh, can you let these people know about this photo shoot, you know? And he said, oh, how did you go? Oh, yeah, I just text them. No. Pick up the phone and ring them. You know, so I think you know, special has been technology because we were so used to face and on the telephone. And you know, you hear from some agencies where, you know, back in the day you actually had one phone. I think it was Matt Steinway and that, you know, in the early days they just had one phone. And you booked a 1.5 hour or 2 hour. I think they kind of joked that you could never get Matt off the phone. But it's changed now. But I think to a certain point, you know, handwritten letters and things that kind of are old school are actually now a point of difference. I think you've kind of got to change up a little bit. So a handwritten letter now in a letterbox, you know, will look far different to what, you know, a printed letter is. So it's kind of, it's interesting how things have changed, but then I think to be different is almost changing back.
I think too, you've got to embrace the technology. And so an example of that is your Facebook can become your database. So you can add all your vendors, add your landlords, add, you know, your different clients to your Facebook account and then build a relationship with them over time. And so they know you. They are involved in your life to some degree in an online way. And then they, even though you're not marketing to them directly, sending them a letter or this and that, they're actually part of your life. And that database can go with you through time. And then when they get into real estate space in 2 years' time, they still have a relationship with you. But I think it's important to you, if you're utilising it in that way, to utilise it with strategy and intent, being having a story, building a connection with those people that are your friends, either on your page or on, you know, attached to your Facebook account.
Look, obviously on social media, you've got some people that probably wouldn't want their vendors on their profiles. For me, you know, it's all about family and community. So, you know, at the end of the day, I love my clients being on my personal Facebook profile. It's also good as well when I list a property is a lot of the time I'll have, you know, both of the vendors on Messenger. So I'll set up a Messenger group. So if they ever need to contact me or I ever need to contact them quickly, I can see, have they seen it, what time they saw it, they can reply instantly. And sometimes people will reply quicker to Messenger on Facebook now than they do to text.
Oh, of course,
You know, or email, because, you know, Trace will get 30, 40, 50 emails through her email. But if someone sends her a messenger or a text,
it actually will pop up.
It's agnostic, isn't it, of platform? You know, your text goes to your phone, email goes, you know, generally to most people's, you know, web on their computer. If they don't have either one of those at a time, Messenger is generally the one that goes across those platforms. So,
that's right.
It's definitely a different way, and I think it was Josh Hart that said at ARIC that, you know, his greatest asset is his Facebook account. You know, and that's where his database lives because that is, you're absolutely right. You're creating relationships there, and I think that account becomes such an asset. Whereas, you know, letterbox dropping, I don't believe is dead, but it's certainly becoming more and more of a money pit because if you put one flyer in there, the next agent's going to put two in there, and the next agent tries to put three in there, and you've got to keep doing that repetitive task, which is not actually really adding any value. Whereas I think on social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, things like that, you're actually building a different kind of relationship.
Yeah, but you've got to have a bit of a relationship to start with.
You do, yes.
So, and then you can build from that.
Yes.
So I think each part of marketing plays a small part.
Yes.
Whether it's the DL, whether it's the, you know, that could be a way of getting new relationships.
That's it. It's the in the door. Yeah.
Like, you know, when we first started, we were in overdrive. You know, we did absolutely everything. You know, years ago, I had my face on everything. You know, now I don't really have my face on anything. You know, but you do have to when you start. You need to be everywhere.
Yes.
You need to be seen. Your profile needs to be in overdrive.
Yeah.
But then once you start getting repeat clients and you've done the hard yards, it's actually, I say to the team and I say to any other real estate agents is where you want your profile to get to is where you don't have to stand with a uniform on and people will come up to you and go, oh, Steve, you're from McGrath.
Yes.
You know, Tracey, you're from McGrath. You know, and I say that's the profile you want to get to. You know, for me, a lot of the time I won't wear anything of a brand. You know, whether it was Ray White or McGrath now, out in the community, people just know me.
Yes.
And that's where you want to get to. But you've kind of got to do the steps to get there.
Yeah, and it's funny because I saw somebody put a post up a little while ago on Facebook in one of the real estate groups, and it was a McGrath banner, and they said, oh, there was no phone number on it, and somebody said, oh, did McGrath not let you put phone numbers on there? But it's missing the point. It's someone's not going to phone you because of your phone number on that banner. That's not the purpose of the banner. That's exactly what you said.
And also as well, for us, it's not about asking for the business. It's actually being available, being contactable. So we obviously network very heavily in our community, and community's really been the backbone of our business right from the start. So it's about people going, oh, hang on, they didn't ask us for the business. And I actually think sometimes that's stronger. You know, there's obviously a lot of agents out there that, you know, measure their, you know, each person needs to do 100 calls a day, and that. For us, we actually work with our staff and the team and kind of go, what are you comfortable with doing, Carl? You know, if you're not comfortable doing cold calling, outsource it or get someone else to do it. But I can guarantee you, if you don't like cold calling,
you're not going to get results.
And I say, you got 100, you know, like I think Tom said it at ARIC, and he said, if you're on the phone cold calling and you're hoping that they don't pick up, you probably shouldn't cold call.
Very true.
And I think you've got to focus on your strengths. You know, we don't do a lot of cold calling and door knocking. Not personally, sometimes we'll outsource it. But, you know, I think gone are the days of that. You know, I think people are changing. I think the industry is changing.
There's just so many options now, I think, isn't there? There's no single right answer to how you win at business. You know, and I think you're absolutely right. You have to find the platform and the methods that work best for you, because the people that win in business now are the ones that are genuine. And if you're doing something that is not aligned to your values and is not genuine to you, it's going to show through.
I think you've got to work hard though. A lot of people talk about, work less, and I don't believe in that. I think you've got to work very hard. You've got to be very focused. In real estate, you've got to chase it like a dog with a bone, because you've got to find a way to communicate with people to you know, get the business. And if you don't, you know, if you pussyfoot around with it, you won't get anywhere. And working hard is very important. And
I think the strength is in, if I ring you as an owner, Carl, and say, Carl, are you looking at selling, right? You've got something I want, right? Whereas by marketing your success, being kind of, you know, approachable and being profiled in the community, when someone's looking to sell and they go, oh, McGrath Springfield, oh, I see Steve and Tracey and the team and Paul and Matt and the crew up there, when they come, they're coming from your success. So you've got something they want, rather than them kind of having the power on their side. You know, they actually want you, and they've chosen you as an agency and obviously as an agent to represent them.
Now, you mentioned there about obviously working hard, Tracey. What keeps you motivated? What keeps you coming back for more and sort of driving further and further with the business?
I write goals every year.
Okay, so you're a goal.
I am. So I write goals every year. I am a highly driven person. It probably annoys people. My dad always called me a dreamer, and I always am just sort of going, I want this and this, and I'm kind of one of those people a bit like you. They say you can't do it. I want to do it. In saying that, achieving it is very hard, but I think, you know, even if you reach halfway, you've done better than if you hadn't even tried.
Of course.
So I believe in hard work. I also believe in work-life balance. So I think hard but focused work with where you've written goals and you're achieving outcomes and you're monitoring your results is really important. So just working hard but not producing anything is crazy, but working hard and reflecting upon what you've done and where you're going and ensuring that you're reaching the end goal or trying to
going in that direction.
Is very, very important.
And I think for Trace and I, we always like to have something to look forward to, whether it's a holiday. So we've got things, booked in, because it actually, kind of rewards you for what you're doing. If you don't have holidays booked in, you don't have time off booked in, you kind of like you're just working, with no kind of, reward in sight.
And I think, what you said there about focused hard work is a really key point, because, you see people that post that, they're in the office at 10 o'clock at night, and you go, well, they claim to be working hard, but you probably systematically got a problem in the work that you're actually doing. Because if you're sitting there at 3 p.m. and you're on Facebook, and then you're still in the office at 10 o'clock at night, there's something wrong there. There's an imbalance, and I think that focused hard work is different.
You've got to be working on income producing things when you're an agent as well, a lot of the time. So if you're working on Facebook, sometimes it's not income producing. Sometimes it is, though.
Yes.
But it's important to be working on things that are generating business for you or getting you towards, your goals. Because at the end of the day, the group certificate tells a lot.
Yes.
And if it's very low, even though you might have worked really hard, I think you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and think, what am I actually doing?
Yeah.
So
that's exactly right. And I think a lot of people, when they're going out and, sometimes they think they work hard, but a lot of the time, it is the income producing,
it's
being productive.
Smart. Yeah.
Trace read something yesterday, which I thought was fantastic, and it says an hour of prospecting is only 4% of your day. So a lot of people go, oh, I'm really busy, and then you kind of go, well, how much TV do you watch? A lot of people say, oh, how do you get up early in the morning? And I'm like, well, I get up an hour earlier than everyone else, or 2 hours earlier than everyone else, and people go, oh, I just don't have time. And you go, oh, what time do you go to bed?
Midnight. Yeah.
So, there's excuses, but at the end of the day, I think different people have a different energy as well. So some people are morning people, some people are night people. I see people that are very successful that get up at 2 a.m. in the morning. I know some people that are very successful and they get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I think it's about managing your energy. So if your energy is high in the morning, well, that's when you probably do your prospecting. Don't do your prospecting, in the afternoon. If you come into the office, wow, fantastic. Okay, when's morning tea? And then you kind of hit the phones or whatever you're doing on prospecting in the afternoon, because you're not going to get the traction. You need to focus your energy around the activities that you do.
Yeah. And I think there's a business group that I'm part of, and we're currently doing a 30-day challenge, which is called a HVA, and it's your high value activities. So it's basically picking the 3 high value or income producing activities and focusing on nothing but those. So if it's outside of those 3, you delegate that task to whoever can look after that for you.
So I'm a task person, so I've got not a lot of lists, but I have a list, and I'm constantly working on that list, because it's easy to get distracted. The phone rings, someone asks you a question, you could spend 15 minutes answering a question, but you actually are not achieving the very things that you need to achieve for the day. So I have a list, and I do a similar thing, the most important things that I need to achieve for the day, which is normally 3. If I can get through those, then I've actually achieved something for the day, something good. So
I think for Trace and I, we're continually learning as well. So whether it's been to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within, we go to a lot of conferences, we listen to a lot of YouTube, a lot of podcasts. Trace listens to a lot of podcasts as well. I've started reading a few books. You kind of, I suppose we're in the making, aren't we, all the time? And we're just getting better and better and better. So you pick up some strategies that you like, some that you don't, some that you try that don't work. But you're continually trying to work to get that right balance and, be a better leader, be a better father, be a better husband, be all those kind of things. And it is a bit of a balance, but it's just about picking up different ideas, and over time you just kind of get better and better.
Yeah, I think, I can't remember who it was that said, when you stop learning is when you stop earning.
Yes.
I don't know who said that phrase, but
probably a few people. But
that's it. A few people have coined it, but I think it's very true. So, talking about learning, you spoke obviously about podcasts and things like that. Who are some of the people that you follow, whether it's online or offline, and that you sort of look to for mentorship or inspiration?
Yeah, I think we've obviously admired John McGrath for many years. Trace is probably has been more of a podcast person than I have, but she started to get me into some of the podcasts and reading some as well. So, professionally, people like Tom Panos, also Jet Xavier. Obviously, I've worked with Jet for many years now, probably coming on 6 or 7 years.
Jet's very mindset coach, is that?
Mindset coach, work-life balance. Obviously, he's got Revive coming up. And I suppose for him, he's really allowed me to kind of take away the fear of losing stuff. So coming from a salesperson into being a principal, I was very like, I can't go away, I can't have holidays, I can't have a day off.
I've got my listing type.
Yeah, those kind of things. But what he got me to work out, and in 2013, I took a month off. I went to America for a month, and it was probably one of the best things I ever did. So for me now, Trace probably would say that I want to go away too much. I want to have too many weekends off. But at the end of the day, you've got to do that because, the team here are great. So a lot of the time, the team will assist when I go away. And even when they go away, certain team members. So it's all about having that supportive environment so that people feel that when they go away, because everyone has to go away at some point, they've got someone to assist them. So podcasts, what podcasts?
So obviously I listen to Tim Ferriss.
Okay.
Have done for many years. I'm now listening to the Minimalist podcast, which is very good. There's a couple of good real estate ones, $1 Million Agent, the Million Agent one that John does. So Anthony Robbins we follow. Matt Steinwade. Followed Matt for many years. He's very inspirational.
I used his a couple of times, his All About the Lemon story, which I think is a really, really, really great story for people to hear when they're in sort of a bit of a flat spot.
I think with the digital age now, like with technology and YouTube and Google and that, every morning, like I'll usually come home from a run or, been out exercising, and while I'm getting ready, I'll put a YouTube on, and it might be Tom Panos, might be John McGrath, it might be Les Brown, Tony Robbins, it might be, I love typing in inspirational speeches of all time, and you've got Al Pacino, and you've got Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, which is one of my favourite, and I've got that quote on the desk where he's talking to his son. So, and it just gets you thinking. We also like Wayne Dyer. Trace just went to a conference recently with Eckhart Tolle. So it's all about, there's so many different parts, spiritually, obviously professionally, personally. So it's kind of getting all those parts and kind of continuing to grow. For us, we want to continue to grow.
We attend conferences every year. You have to keep learning. We focus on, we do daily learning as well. Either reading, listening to something on YouTube, following, listening to a podcast in the car. So I'm constantly learning about, there's so much happening in the world. It takes up a lot of my time. People are always saying, "Are you training again?" Well, yes. But I am learning every time. You need to stay
at that front edge, at the front of the back.
And then there's the property management side of things as well. Like there's a lot of legislative changes that occur. So it's not just sales, it's property management as well. So. And
do you instill that in your team as well? Is it something you kind of have built in as a KPI, or is it just kind of sort of something you say, here's some good resources to listen to?
Yeah, originally we used to have a library of books and all of that sort of stuff in the office. We encourage our staff to do training, no matter whether they're property management, administration or sales. So invite them to a lot of things to come with us or send them to training. So McGrath obviously do a lot of in-house training where they bring in external speakers to speak, which is great. So, yeah.
I think as well, like if they're looking at something like Tom Panos' The Real Estate Gym, we've done some stuff with the team on the Real Estate Gym and some of the interviews. You've just got to keep learning, because there might be one thing that Kurt or Matt or Paul hears in a podcast today or a video that goes, oh, wow. Like the other day I came across a YouTube with Zig Ziglar, one of the greatest speakers of all time. You just pick up on something from that, and that's from the 80s or the 90s. Like it's years ago. So we love quotes. A lot of quotes. There's a lot of quotes that you can you see online. On Instagram and Facebook. But sometimes they'll mean something different to Trace, to me. But it's being inspired, but also, I suppose, inspiring.
Yes, yeah. And so in terms of your business, what's next for you guys? What are you still growing the team? Is there more offices planned, or what's sort of the future look like for you guys?
Trace would like lots of offices. I think for us, obviously, being just over 12 months since the transition, it's about making sure that this office and the network and the setup we've got here is perfect. We've got probably a few more seats that we can fill. But for us, it's not about just, hey, let's fill the seats. It's about making sure we get the right people. So, that's one of the big things for us. And not making sure that we don't grow too quickly.
Yes.
For us, we've got so much growth in Greater Springfield. It's only at about 18% completed. Yes. So in our kind of BDA here, which stretches right out even into Collingwood Park and Redbank Plains, right through Greater Springfield out to Newbeath and Greenbank. So there's a lot of growth just in that. So it's kind of like, do we just focus on growing within our current BDA, or do we take on other BDAs?
Sure.
But I see a lot of businesses take on other offices,
and then they're spread too thin.
Yep.
Yes.
And then they spread themselves too thin. That's right, and they take on too much, because you've also got a work-life balance as well.
Yeah.
Or a work-life struggle sometimes. I'm sure. But so the more offices you've got, the harder it gets. So you kind of got to sit there and go, well, hang on. It's not all just about making lots of money. You're a point. Like I always say, a lot of agents kind of sit there and go, well, I've got to be $1 million agent. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay,
that
so
fit with what you need in life?
You could be a $500,000 agent, and still have a great life and have a house and an investment property, and over time you can do certain things and have a nice car. You don't have to be $1 million, or you don't have to be a $2 million or a multi-million-dollar agent. You've kind of got to work out what works for you.
Yeah.
So for us, that's kind of what Trace and I, we're driven people, and we're driven to succeed, but we also don't want to kind of be I see a lot of principals that, and I was talking to Jed Xavier about it today. Success used to be, or it seemed success used to be, that you'd have 4 offices and you're on your 4th marriage. That was the kind of thing for us. For Trace and I, that's not success for us.
Yeah.
You don't want to sacrifice your family.
Yeah, of course.
For your work
for
success.
Business growth.
Yeah.
Yes, and way too many people do that already. So to wrap up, guys, I just want to get your opinion on, if somebody is joining the industry new. Well, let's use a bit of a Tim Ferriss type question. If you didn't have anything that you've got today, but you had all the knowledge and you were starting in real estate right now, what would be sort of the 3 things that you would do to start getting success and start getting traction?
I think for me, and that's probably what I've done right from the start, is heavily put yourself into the community. So community groups, and really have a genuine and authentic. So I have a lot of people that go, so I've got to be part of a community and I've got to work with community groups. I don't really like that. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
You've got to be genuine and authentic around it. So if you don't, a lot of people go, I'm in real estate, but I don't really like people. Get out.
Yeah.
So if you don't like community and you don't like doing that kind of profile and kind of cooking sausages at a sausage sizzle at a fete or anything, don't do it.
Yeah.
I think social media is going to be your big platform, and videos, making sure that people have got kind of your face and your name kind of on their news feed and very regular. And I still think direct mail, in a lot of the areas is still very good. People still are opening letters. That may change over time as electronic billing and those kind of things move down that track. But what are your thoughts, Trace?
So I think a new agent should be spending 70% of their time prospecting.
Yep.
They need to be continually learning, and they need to be doing a significant amount of marketing. So investing their money into themselves to build their profile, because $5,000 and $10,000 invested in year 1 will be paying off in year 10 100-fold.
Yes.
And you don't know where you'll be. You may not be with the same agency in 10 years. You may have your own.
Yeah.
So don't be thinking, oh, I'm marketing the brand of the company that I'm working for. You're marketing yourself, and that career path will go with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
You might start with this company, you might leave that, but you're still spending that money back here, and it will pay off. It's a huge investment at the time, but the returns are phenomenal.
And just don't focus on today's listing. You know, a lot of people kind of go, oh, Carl, are you looking at selling? And you go, oh, 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, okay, thanks, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, if you work with the 6 to 12 month people, well, then in 6 months, you've got more 6 to 12 month people.
Yeah.
And, you know, over time, you've got a funnel that's feeding a lot of leads to you, as long as you're obviously nurturing them.
It's funny because I think a combination of what you both said there about investing in yourself and not being desperate for the listing. I can't remember which agent it was that I interviewed, but they came into the industry with about 50K behind them, and they said that's my safety chest.
Yeah.
So they have money to invest in themselves. They weren't desperate for every listing because they weren't sort of worrying about the debit credit. They could actually just go and be professional about their job and approach people in a professional manner. If they could help them, then great. And they just found that they were able to, I think, accelerate their journey in real estate because they weren't desperate for the money and they were willing to invest in themselves to grow.
Well, they talk about commission breath, don't they? They talk about if you're at a listing and, you know, this is kind of make or break, you know, you've got the sweat running down your brow and stuff like that. But I think it's Josh Vegan I know he talks about, you know, making sure that you got money behind you because then you're not focused on the money.
Yeah.
You know, you're focused on more the relationship. And I think, you know, when I first got into real estate, I remember sitting there and as I was doing up the contract, I'm typing in the calculator going, oh, $3,800 I'm going to get out of this, right? And then I went, no, this is rubbish. Because what happens is a deal will fall over and you'll go, oh, I lost $3,800. I never had $3,800. So it affects your mindset. And, you know, for us, Tracey and I always talk about it's how you recover. So, you know, if you lose a listing or you lose a contract, if you've got 3 or 4 more, well, then you're not going to be stressing.
Yeah.
So you've really got to kind of make sure you're doing the activities and getting the traction and the actions, I suppose, that kind of feeds your funnel.
Yeah.
Many years ago when Steve started, when we both started, we were in partnership together. So we're selling real estate together, and Steve's grandma dies, and Steve gets an inheritance, a small inheritance, and so of $5,000. So this is about 10 years ago to put it into perspective.
Yep.
And he sat there and he spent his entire inheritance on marketing for real estate. And I sat there thinking at the time, because I was very new, you idiot.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, your grandmother's going to be thinking, you know, she'll be,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? Like, you should be investing it in a property, or you should be travelling, or you should be. Yeah. So that's what he did, right? And it turned out to be a real turning point in his career. It was very wisely spent. So he had all this marketing, balls and like soccer balls and pens
stubby holders
and all sorts of stuff.
calendars.
Now, in that year, or possibly the next, to give you a bit of an idea of how much money we did spend investing in our career, was about $90,000. So we invested a huge amount of money into marketing, and
we tried everything. I tried absolutely everything: school newsletters, billboards, you know, everything. You name it, I did it.
Yeah.
My point is that that's how important his career was to him, that he would take his grandmother's inheritance and invest it into his career. That's what you have to do. You have to sell the boat and put it into your career. Not you know, you've got to do this because it will pay off.
You've got to have risk. You've got to have skin in the game.
Yes.
You know, because at the end of the day, you know, I see a lot of agents and I'll say, okay, so what about you do this and this, and they go, oh, but that's going to cost $150, and I go, yeah, but hang on. We know from that $150 of direct mail, over time, done consistently, what if you get one listing? How's that? Oh, that's good. So I get the team here and we talk to the team about what's a listing worth?
Yes.
You know, because sometimes people go, oh, I won't, they wanted me to pay for the professional photography, or they wanted me to do this, and I sit there and it is the question, what's a listing worth? Is it $250? Is it $500? But sometimes little prospecting things, they don't go, well, like Kurt here, he spent a lot of money on direct mail. But like in the last month, he's probably done 8 or 9, appraisals in an area where he's probably spent well into the thousands on direct mail consistently. So it's starting to come through now.
Yes.
You really have to wait that kind of 6 to 12 months of doing that consistently.
Yeah.
But a lot of people do one thing and then go, it didn't work.
Yeah, that's it.
I dropped one flyer and no one called me, and that cost me $500.
Yes.
That's okay. Now do it again next week or next month.
But they don't. They pull the pin at that point and go, that didn't work. Let me try the next thing.
Because they get scared.
That doesn't
because
work.
they've spent so much money.
Yes.
But that's why you've got to have money behind you to invest.
And being in $1 Million Boot Camp a couple of weeks ago after ARIC, the interesting thing with that is they were talking about, an agent came forward and he said, I'm making calls every day, cold calls every day. But really out of about 40 calls, I'm only getting about 5, right? And there was another guy in the audience and he said, mate, that's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's 5 people that you've connected with, right? That's 5 more people than you would have if you didn't at all.
Yes.
So don't focus on your success rate. Just focus on the consistency of it. Yeah. And if you got 5 every day, like I always say, simplify it. So a lot of people go, I've got to do 100 calls and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. I always say, even if you just do 5 of 5 activities, so you might just do 5 business card drops, go and meet 5 people, 5 past client calls, 5 hello cards in your BDA. Yeah. Like over the year, there's 6,000 to 7,000 points of contact.
That's right. That
you're going to get out, and it's not rocket science. If you do 6,700 points of contact over a year, right, in your area and in your business, it will dramatically change.
Yes.
But people focus on, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and a lot of people
today, right? It's all about, did I get a result today? No. Okay, then that's not working.
And we procrastinate.
Yeah.
So we sit there and we go, okay. We were talking about this earlier about people go, we want to get some DLs done, some letterbox drops. But what do we do? And they'll sit at their desk for 12 hours kind of going, so...
Do we do the free appraisal this time?
Do we do the free appraisal? Or do we do the sold properties? Do I do a testimonial? Do I have a testimonial? Maybe I can borrow a testimonial. Yeah, and they go through this whole procrastination. Just get something out there.
I think it's really important to not focus too much on getting it perfect.
Yeah.
Because if we get it perfect, we would have taken so much time to get it perfect. That we've lost, business moves too quickly.
Yes,
so 80% good enough, sadly, but it is good enough. It's authentic, it's good enough. I mean, I'm not saying, publish material that's not of good standard, but don't spend 12 hours of your day focusing on what are you actually going to do. Just do stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I think in real estate as well is that everyone's always looking an excuse why they're not doing well. So sometimes people will go, I'm waiting for that brochure to come back.
Yeah.
Well, do something else.
Yes.
That brochure's not just going to kind of appear in a box and it's going to go out and then
with
your phone's going to
contracts on top of it. Yeah.
So you've kind of just got to, not just focus on one thing. It's a layer, and marketing really is a layer. Yeah. You've got to have, a lot of people say, I don't like letterbox drops. I don't like direct mail. I don't like this. But then they're not doing anything anyway.
Yes.
And you go, well, what does work?
Yeah.
It's just an excuse that they don't want to spend money. But in this, at the end of the day, I think for us, we're in a position where in real estate, what you invest, the return on investment can be amazing.
It's what you tell vendors every day, right? Invest in the marketing for your property is going to get you bigger returns. It's the same. Invest in yourself as an agent, you're going to get bigger returns.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So.
Well, guys, look, I've taken up enough of your time, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for coming to see us.
It's been really awesome, and I think there's been a lot of value for people to.
It's been great.
Enjoy this.
Well, good.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, Carl.